Do you have an agenda?
I don't, because I believe Michelle was making them,
Okay.
so I don't, but we can, we'll wing it.
Well, go ahead. Are you leading?
Anything finance related that you think you should do?
Um,
There we go.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't even see you there.
Yeah, I just blend in with the furniture.
I do have Glenn's weekly report, which I think you all got in an email, but I'll just touch on a couple of things of note.
That'd be great.
This week, he did participate in some interviews for the deputy finance director. There was a candidate, not in state, that he was actually quite excited about, has a degree and I believe he said municipal experience. So I believe that there was going to be an offer being made soon.
Great.
For upcoming next week, he has a list here, but he will be having a meeting with the water department and an Ellsworth resident to discuss that individual's account.
Mm-hmm.
He has a public workshop next week on the business attraction plan, which I know has been kind of an ongoing project citywide. So he'll be participating in that.
Yeah, I think we all are on Monday.
Yeah,
right?
yep. And then this year we have 3 union contracts that are up for negotiation. So he has, the 3 of them all start next week in the early phases. So those will be coming. I don't know if you all have appointed your liaison for contract negotiations yet or not, but you want to start considering that.
That's me.
Because it is coming, and there's many, so
There's 3 this year, right?
there's 3 unions, yeah. Yeah.
Senator and Steve.
And then Monday. Well, I've got it on the schedule.
Yeah.
It was Monday, right?
I think so. And then, of course, next Friday, he will be meeting with one of the city manager candidates that has been brought forward from the council. There is a local roads committee meeting on February 5th at 7 o'clock at night. It is a public meeting, and it's one of the hotter topics for the budget cycle. So, if you're not on the local roads committee, it's, wise to come and see.
When is it?
February 5th.
I think I'm on that
I think you are.
committee.
But if you're not, it's wise to come, members of the public to come, to see what that group's plans are for the upcoming year.
Could you give me a piece of your paper?
You can have a copy of this.
Oh, I can?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, God love you. Thank you.
Can you pass me one too, please, Steve? Thank you.
And then, Maura has asked that I remind the finance committee, she is needing dates for budget workshops, so she can begin posting and marketing those in hopes to garner some public participation this year. She plans on sharing with the usual sources, but also I think she's gonna try to really, she wasn't here last year for the budget cycle, so I think she's gonna try to do some of her marketing on maybe the Instagram as well as other social media avenues and try to encourage more public engagement this year. So the sooner she can get those
Dates.
dates for workshops is certainly better for her. I know that you guys have been working at Finance Committee, trying to establish a timeline and process for that, and I know it's gonna be on the February agenda. Casey asked for that to be an item, so,
Yeah.
be thinking of that.
Sounds like March is the beginning. That's.
Sounds
the-
like it, yes. This
that-
time last year, we had already laid out our schedule and already had it posted. And I think we began in February, middle of February last year, so
That's-
we're a little later than normal.
I think the intent of that, and don't hold me to that, was hopefully, and I don't think it's reality, but I believe the intent of that was the audit,
Yeah.
to have the audit.
have the
I don't
audit.
believe that's ever gonna happen, but they say there's a chance, so we'll see.
But I think those are the
Hope
key
springs
points.
eternal.
I'm sorry?
Hope springs eternal.
I think those are the key points out of his report. And you've got a copy there if you wanna go down through it.
Quick question on the warrant and you can come back to this, if anyone has questions. I see public fire, sewer, water bill, is that just the fire department paying the sewer department for its
Yeah.
use? Okay.
Yeah. We have no choice. PUC says even if it's ours, we have to pay for it.
Yeah, no, I know, yes, no. I
Was
just
that the
wondered.
big one?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
big one. But that's it.
And it's a quarter, it is
It's
a quarterly.
quarterly, 'cause
Quarterly,
when I
yeah.
first got on the, when I was first on this committee, that was, nobody really knew when I asked that question. But
It
it's
is a quarterly installment.
bill. And it's for capacity, not use,
Right,
is what I learned.
yes.
Yeah, and for larger, because I've actually represent a few public water and sewer districts, and yeah, for the larger users, that's often the arrangement.
Capacity.
Yeah, capacity, right? Because like if you've got a paper mill or, someone in your town that's gonna be using a lot of it, yeah. Well, should we entertain our?
Yep.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm up?
Yes,
We have to
yes.
wait your turn.
I
Okay,
know,
yeah.
there's such a rush.
It's we don't even usually have people here, well, other than Mark, so this is, we're
Well, I
happy to
wanted
have
to
you.
just open up an informal dialogue between, so first of all, you have, probably don't know me, so
No, I
allow
don't.
me to introduce myself.
Thank you.
Both Steve and Tammy, is it Tammy?
Tony,
Tony, thank you. I'm getting you and Tammy and Michelle and everybody
Yeah.
else mixed up. I have not, in full disclosure, had enough caffeine this morning, fully
Same.
admit it. And it's Friday, so by the time you get to Friday, you need it.
Yeah.
I'm Sharon Cadis, I'm the Development Director for Down East Community Partners.
Great.
And we are the CAP agency or Community Action Program, you may have heard of us, that serves both Hancock County and Washington County. So we cover an area the size of the state of Connecticut. A lot of people don't realize that, but Maine's a big state. And here in Ellsworth, we provide a number of, this broad spectrum of services. And in fact, here you go. You know what? I happen to have a copy. I think you might already have this.
Yep, I
Yeah,
do.
but
Yep.
you probably don't.
Thank you.
I sent our annual report to most of the city council members last year, or I thought I hit all of them, but, I'm never sure if you all, how that process works. But anyway, so also last year, I was here and I asked for support for our fundraiser for the THAW Fund. And THAW is an acronym for the Heating and Warmth Fund, and it's our crisis heating fund. So in Maine, so many of, in particular, older Mainers who are not coming back into the workforce, they're in their 80s, and, they're, back when they were in the workforce, there weren't a lot of jobs in Maine that offered a 401k. So they're living off of that Social Security. And that is a fixed income, and yet everything else is not fixed, the price of everything. And so we're seeing so many seniors in Ellsworth, in the larger whole across Maine, really, really struggle to heat their homes. And yet what we see as a model often, although we're fielding in our energy services department 200 to 400 calls a day. And once it gets over the 200, some of those end up dropping, and then we have to call back. We have revamped our phone system. We've done so much, and we are so better able to serve folks than we've ever been able to. We have a brand new phone system. It's just, we've doubled our workforce in energy services to try and deal with the amount of people who really need us to be on the other end of that phone. But what I'm seeing so much of is that folks in their 80s, proud Mainers that they are, they don't want to call until they reach that critical point. And it's often the wife that calls because the man's too proud. we know how that is, you know, proud Mainers. And it's hard for me to say without tearing up, but they're in desperate need. And we are receiving those on a day-to-day basis. We're seeing folks who feel really helpless and, you know, are actually threatening to harm themselves. On the other end of the phone, that has gone up. Percentage-wise, if I were to guess, we're receiving 1 to 3 of those a week, which is really, really scary. We've never seen that on the level that we're experiencing it now. And one of the criticisms that I hear of Down East Community Partners is, well, you guys receive state and federal funding. We do, that's true, and we administer programs for, I mean, you understand, I'm sure, what a CAP agency does. The trajectory of the funding, in particular for like the low-income home energy assistance program, or LIHEAP, as so many people know it as, the trajectory of that funding is congressionally appropriated, and then it comes to Maine Housing, and then the CAP agencies throughout the state of Maine, of which there are 9, help people, walk people through the process for applying for that. However, the funding that we're getting goes directly, it's a pass-through. It goes direct benefit to those individuals, and the funding was cut this year. So Congress, you know, decided to cut the funding by almost 65%. It's over 50%. So if you were somebody on Social Security and you had applied last year and received $1,200 as a benefit, I'll just use that as an example, because it is a common benefit amount, or was last year, that looks like $500 this year. And there's also no supplemental benefits this year. So folks are really hurting. So I honestly thought when I came before the city council last year that you wouldn't see me this year asking for support for the heating and warmth fund, in addition to the third-party funding that you do give to us. But here I am, because benefits have been reduced. We're seeing roughly 40% uptick, so people who've never approached us before. And then the difference between like the government-funded program and the THOT program is that those folks who are calling who are in their 80s, I can't get them the LIHEAP benefits immediately when they wait till it's almost too late. And we just had a conversation with somebody back in December, and it was the wife calling, and you know, we're required, of course, to ask, when was the last time you had fuel in your tank? And then, you know, she was like, May? Are you kidding me? What have you been doing? But anyway, so here I am. There is huge community support for this event. So we do a fundraiser at the Grand. This is the second time I've done it. Last year was the first annual To Warmer Winter's Night. And it's a night of community support around the THAW Fund, the Heating and Warmth Fund, that crisis fund that allows us to step in and help folks when they call at the last minute. It's also solely donor funded. We've gotten support from the Ellsworth Chamber of Commerce, we've gotten support from community businesses, and I just wanted to open up a dialogue with all of you. And I'd love to come talk in February about the need and why the need and what we're seeing, and ask all of you collectively. But I wanted to have a conversation with the budget committee, or the, what is it, finance committee, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry.
It's all money.
It's all money, yeah. And there are so many towns that I deal with, and they call it a budget committee, or they call it the, you know, the warrant committee, or you know, anyway. So, questions?
When is the fundraiser?
Yes, sorry. Actually, I brought you show and tell. Yes. So, here's a little flyer for it. We're very excited to have the Crown Vics and
Crown Vics.
Chris Ross, and Golden Oak is kind of a Western Maine band of national repute.
Well, there's COA grads.
Yeah.
One of them was my wife's
Uh,
student.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, Zach and Lena are donating their performance. And we had last year during intermission, we live auctioned off a Yodel wood stove that was donated by Evergreen. And this year, Dave's World is donating a heat pump, and we'll be live auctioning that off during the intermission. But so many of the local businesses from Bar Harbor to Ellsworth have donated little things for the silent auction. It's really a wonderful event of community support, and you can tell that folks really are concerned about keeping their neighbors warm. So last year, all of you voted to support this at the $1,000 range, or $1,000 level, and I truly did not foresee being here to ask again. I didn't. Because I know that you're a municipality that's being squeezed at everywhere you turn. But so are the residents of Ellsworth, and so are we also as a nonprofit agency that's here to help. So I thought I would come back and see if you would consider supporting us again. So last year I pulled off this fundraiser on 3.6% overhead. So over 96% went directly to where it needed to go. As a, nonprofit as well, the Grand wanted some compensation for having the heat on and the lights on and having to run the sound and all the things that made the concert possible. We did raise last year roughly $90,000 in support. But most of that was from the sponsorships. And then, people buying silent auction items and the ticket price, and $4 of which goes towards the grant. That's the other bit that, so.
Okay. So if the city chooses to support this event, is there any, and I don't mean to be unkind to our neighbors, but if the city chooses to support this event, how much of that money could go anywhere,
No.
or could it only stay in Ellsworth? How does that work?
It can't stay only in Ellsworth. So at $1,000, that's about two full tanks. I just.
So if the city
It
decides to
depends.
give,
Right.
it could be tagged.
We made
Okay.
sure that it stayed here in Ellsworth. And in fact, it's part of our report that you will have coming to you as the new budget cycle and everything for everybody goes through. We will appeal for third-party funding. And I wanted you to know too, that's something that there may be an education piece around, because when I first started with DCP, Everybody Eats and Down East Community Partners were two different things, and we both appeal to you for third-party funding, right? Well, Down East Community Partners has taken the Everybody Eats under our umbrella, so they are no longer their own thing. They are part of us. So when I changed the amount that I was asking from Ellsworth, that reflected the fact that you're not being asked by Everybody Eats and DCP, you're being asked just by DCP, just by Down East Community Partners, because they've become a program of Down East Community Partners. So there's that. But with the new budget cycle coming for third-party funding, And we are in the process of filling out our application to you for that. When is that due? Just for my, because I don't have it in the back of my head.
I'm not sure, because I have not been in the budget process this year. I know department budgets are due today
Okay.
for city departments, so I don't know if
Okay.
there was a different deadline for
Yeah, I
third
think it
parties.
was, but I was just wanting to
Yeah.
touch base. Okay.
I'm not certain. You've been in communication with Ann.
You know, actually, it's probably I have one other person in my department, and it's probably my associate Rachel, whose email address is on the,
Okay, yeah.
is on the list.
Ann was arranging all of the scheduling this year, so I would just have your
Okay,
people reach back out.
right,
and
I'll have Rachel reach out to you.
Check on it.
Anyway, so when we apply for that, part of our presentation or the packet that you will receive from us is not just the application, it will be, here's what we did with your money last year. And it did say in Ellsworth, we knew that you wanted that very much. In fact, you know, we are not allowed to disclose what homes were fueled. For instance, with that money that you gave to the thaw program. But we can tell you, I think it was three homes, because the price of fuel was so high last year. I don't know, 3 or 4 maybe. But yeah, it stayed here in Ellsworth. We understand that you want to be, not that you don't want to be helping people on the outlying towns, but that you really, your concern, and rightly so, should be for Ellsworth citizens and Ellsworth residents. And yeah, so.
One further question that I have about this particular funding is, when a recipient applies, okay? And I'm not talking about the money that Ellsworth may or may not donate, I'm talking about the organization. Do you pick 4 families and fill their tank, or do you pick 9 families and give them all 75 gallons? How does that work?
Actually, I misspoke earlier, it is 100 gallons, you're correct.
Okay.
It is 100 gallons.
So you're
And it is capped
taking-
at that so that you can help more people.
Spread that
Right,
further?
right.
Okay.
And last year, actually, so again, I didn't intend to be here, because I know that when I appeared last year, I told you all that the need had gone up 400% in 2 years, and it had. So the year before I arrived at Downey's Community Partners, it had gone up 200%. The year that I arrived, it went up another 200%. And so I really realistically didn't see the need being any greater than that. When I did that fundraiser last year, I kind of thought it was gonna be a one-off. I really did. I did it because there was a critical need in the community, and thought that that was gonna be able to walk away from it. Surprise! Yeah, over the summer, you know, the Congress just decided to not appropriate as much funding for low-income heating. And unfortunately, the people who are suffering the most are the seniors. And that's the bit that I can't handle. You know, I don't have a grandmother. In fact, my mom's in her 90s. So I can't even imagine my mother, for that matter. But you get it. She lives off, my mom does, off Social Security, unfortunately. My brother lives with her. But I can't imagine the helpless feeling. And that is what we're hearing so often on the phone. So, I just wanted to open up that dialogue and explain to you why I'm here. Didn't intend on being here, didn't want to ask again, but the community's struggling, and we're seeing that desperation.
So last year, there was some talk about when you come during the budget season to make all of your requests at that point, not midstream. Because
Right.
if somebody does it midstream, then everybody could do it midstream. And last year, the city gave you more or less during that
More.
budget process?
More, but I asked for more to represent both, that's what I'm saying, both Everybody Eats and DCP.
Right, and what was that amount for the record?
2,000, I believe.
And the amount before, the year before?
Was 1,000 for us and 500 or so
500
for
for Everybody Eats.
550, something like that, or 600, somewhere around that for
So-
Everybody Eats.
So the city bumped up their contribution collectively last year.
Correct, but the aid to Ellsworth residents also bumped up.
Right.
And typically, I should back up that typically our ask of every municipality that we serve, whose residents we serve, is roughly 5% of the value of the services offered. So we are not anywhere near, I mean, if I asked Ellsworth for that, that would be $197,000.
Again.
So out of the 14 million in aid that we provided to roughly 84 towns or unorganized territories across Hancock and Washington County, Ellsworth was 3 million of that roughly.
I think everybody, certainly, if they had the resources, would be forthgiving.
Right.
But everyone is
Totally
tight,
get it.
tight, tight.
Totally get it.
So how much do you do?
Totally get it.
Yeah,
And there
yeah.
is this assumption out there that Down East Community Partners, because we get state and federal funding for some of the programs that we administer, that that's enough. It's not enough. There's no indirect. I can't keep the lights on. I can't keep the building heated. I can't pay employees, health benefits. It is never, no state or federal program are we ever getting enough to cover the program itself, really. That's the catch-22. They never give you enough to truly compensate for the cost of the program itself, for the people answering the phones to administer said program. So,
Well, I thank you for coming, and I wasn't aware of this program. I'm new to the council.
okay,
We can't make a decision.
Right.
But you should come to the February
I'm hoping
meeting.
to come to the February.
Come to
yeah.
the February meeting and I don't know how my fellow council members would vote on this, but I think regardless, use the meeting as an opportunity to
Yeah,
get this information out there.
Right.
People come to the meeting, people watch the meeting, the press covered it. So yeah, again, I can't tell
Yeah.
you
right.
what we're gonna do.
And I won't take up any more of your time.
No.
Seriously.
No, this is very valuable. I'm on the board of Healthy Acadia, so I know,
Nice.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of partnerships with
Right.
the organization, and I think this is very important. It's obviously
Well,
a critical
and as
work.
far as out of cycle, again, didn't intend.
Yeah.
So after we had already asked last time for your support as a third-party funder, then the funding for the LIHEAP program got cut
Yeah,
by over 50%.
Yeah.
So not intentional on my part, to approach you out of cycle, like
Yeah.
didn't intend that.
understood.
And maybe what I need to do is, and you might advise me, is to ask for more than I've been asking for. And then,
Well, that was where I was gonna go, because obviously this would be an unbudgeted request for us. It was unbudgeted last year, and I think last year, to kind of piggyback off what Sharon said, because it was such a need last year and it was unbudgeted, I understood that the council's decision was based on the need and knowing that it was kind of a one-off event. There were a lot of comments made by the counselors that obviously we can't do this kind of thing off cycle every year because you do it for one and you're gonna have a whole bunch of people coming in. And so that was kind of their concern, that they wanted to make it clear that it wasn't gonna become a normal thing to do an off-cycle request without real substantial reasons for that. So I do want to throw that out there, that it is an unbudgeted cost. It is already on the agenda for February 12th, I think is your meeting. So you
And
or
I-
someone from your organization should definitely be here.
Oh, I'll be here, not to worry.
Because Casey has requested it to be on the agenda. I think,
Yeah.
I think she copied all of you on that email.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, so yeah, you're on the agenda,
Awesome.
and I
And
think,
But yes, I would
and I do
recommend
wanna
increasing.
say, again, like I said, didn't intend to be here, but, and, I don't plan on it being an annual, like, one-off.
Right. No, I think it's certainly, I think we know we're all in government or in nonprofit, and so I think it's,
Right.
given the state of the economy in 2024, I think we should all plan on for next year. You're probably also gonna have cuts on your end, so.
Right, so-
It wouldn't hurt to just increase your funding
Funding,
request.
right, I'll increase the funding request, and what I would do with that increase in funding request, because here's the thing, I want you to know that the people that came to the event, when you come in, there's this huge placard that
Yeah.
says who's supporting the event. And City of Ellsworth was smack dab in the middle, and people remarked on that in a positive way. They were like, look at that,
Yeah.
the city cares.
Yeah, so I think,
So
and I think when you do your
seeing-
request, you
And
know.
we do have the Ellsworth Chamber of Commerce that's
Yes.
gonna be on there, and so you're not out there alone, you know what I mean, see, as community support. And sometimes just having your logo up there
Makes a
that
difference.
is so recognizable, and people go, wow, the city cares. And that
It
kind
does.
of, and it was such a wonderful evening of, people came and they came to keep their neighbors warm. And to ward off cabin fever at the end of February.
Yes.
But, so, you know, I mean, the three bands are really gonna be amazing. And they were bidding on silent auction items above the retail value. I mean, it just, the atmosphere last year was just electric and heartwarming and wonderful. And it just was a community event. And quite frankly, you all were at the center of it. You know, so
Yeah, I think,
there is value
there is.
in that.
But when you do your request, because I know we combined your two groups last year, Everybody Eats and DCP, just to make it easier for you guys, probably for us too, I'm sure. But I
Well,
would try to
and-
do the
and-
same when you write up your request this year. I don't know if you've done it yet or not, or where you're at with it.
Yeah,
but
we're in the process.
in your, I would break out your
Narrative?
request, like
Okay.
make one request, but in that narrative, I would format it because it's gonna be a request amount. It's gonna be higher than normal, and so to help with the questions that the council may have
Yeah.
prior to a workshop meeting, you know, if you said $1,000 is for the DCP regular operational budget, whatever your normal statements are there, you know, 500 is for the food program and 1,000 for
For
this.
thought.
Kind of break it
Right.
out into
Yep,
those three
Absolutely,
categories.
and I can do that. And-
Just because it will help them with any of their questions later as to why it's increased, they may
and if-
already.
And if you're gonna fund that at, say, the $3,000 level, then I could, you know, recognize you that if we do this fundraiser
Right.
again, as
Right.
trust me, it's not something I necessarily want to do. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And when you only have two people in your department, you feel like you're drowning. So,
I'd just like to say one thing
Yeah.
about this situation is, I'm in my first term as a counselor. And I know, and I'm speaking for myself as a counselor, it's really hard to, for me, it's hard for me to, and I suspect other counselors, where do you put those donation dollars? Where do they go? And do we, as a city, say, okay, we're gonna support everybody equal? Or we as a city support this one over this one with this funding level and that funding level? And I think it's really hard, as great as every organization is,
totally get it.
to everybody's tugging for a little bit bigger
Totally get
piece
that.
of the pie. And I think as a council, we have to say, you want my pen?
You're just talking with
It's
your
a
pen
joke.
while you're talking.
Well, it's a joke because I'm the one that always brings pens.
Here we go.
No,
Down to the beginning of partners, right there.
what I'm getting at is, and I can't speak for others, but I can tell you this, that it is something that I know I fight with. Do we give this organization this amount, this one over here? This one didn't even request anything. This
So-
one requested more, and and on an individual level, in my household budget, I have to make decisions where I go with my dollars
So
to give.
do you prioritize at all the amount that is given to Ellsworth City residents? For instance, how many nonprofits are providing $3 million in aid to Ellsworth residents? I'm just curious.
I think that's part of the discussion. I mean, when you write your narrative, when any organization writes their narrative funding request, that's part of what the council should be reviewing when they get their budget books. You know, they should be looking at those applications for funding and saying, okay, this organization is spending a lot of money Hancock County-wide, but they didn't really tell us how they're affecting Ellsworth, whereas this application did. But those are the things they are supposed to be looking at because of our policy, which I think I did send even the new counselors. I don't know if there's been changes yet, but
I thought I
those are the
had.
things that they do kind of look at. So whatever you can put in your narrative that really pinpoints
Absolutely.
the effect on Ellsworth. Obviously, you do affect many communities, so it doesn't hurt to kind of put that at the top. Like, we have a $14 million budget for this range, but in Ellsworth, we've done
Oh,
400
absolutely.
households for food and 200 for this.
And we do that.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah,
letter-
last year was
Our
pretty good.
letter to you, that precedes even you sending us an application. So the way that this process works, or has always worked since I've been there, is that we, at the end of our fiscal year, which is September 30th, we then gather all of the information from all of our different departments. And when you look at our annual report, you can tell how extensive our programming is. And it's literally a lifespan from, pregnant moms through aging in place in Hancock County. It's just this huge spectrum. Breakthrough youth, we at-risk youth. At every point, we are there. And one of the first things that I do is, as soon as our fiscal year ends, is generate this massive spreadsheet that maps out what entity, whether it be an unorganized territory, a city, a town, received, what their residents received, okay? I can tell you the dollar amount of, for each line item, and you actually receive a copy of that letter, which typically, that's the first step in the process,
Yeah.
and then you send us an application.
Yeah, I think
and
it
then
was in
we
your budget
send-
books last year, like the original letter and then the application. I think it was all.
So we usually preempt you, is what I'm trying to say, by saying, hey, here's what we did. And then we get something from you all that's like, hey, here's our application, we need you to fill this out. And if you're not, so maybe what I need to do is reattach that letter with the application.
I would, just because where there's been some staffing changes. I think I got your letter this past fall,
Mhm.
which I know that I passed off to the finance office, but again, with we have two
Right,
new staff in
I
there,
think it
so.
was addressed to you, Tony, right? Like,
If
or-
you
or
want
to
to,
you.
even if you want to send it to me again,
Yeah.
I can make sure that it just gets included. Just with changes, things happen and it gets misplaced. So if you want to resend it, I can make sure that it gets
And I
distributed.
thought I had a copy, I must have taken it out of my.
And actually, if you
folder.
want to email, if you don't mind, a copy of this.
Oh, yeah.
And then I can try to get Maura to do some marketing on the city's social
That would
media
be lovely.
pages, to encourage attendance at the
Because,
event.
realistically, and it's because of the size of the city of Ellsworth, more
Big city.
Ellsworth residents than anyone else uses that
Yeah.
fund. So, and that's just that's no reflection on Ellsworth, it's just a reflection on the size compared to the size of other
Right.
towns, obviously. But when I came to give my presentation last year, I actually handed out to each one of the counselors like a pie chart. I did exactly
Yes.
what you were saying,
Yeah.
where I said, here's the massive 14 point whatever, and here's your slice of the pie, and here's what it looked like.
I'd just like to say this, that I think you coming before the finance committee is nice to hear, okay? And, because during the budget process, there's 15 to 20 people that night coming for money,
And you're feeling
and
like you're
so
in a
we get to
pressure
focus
cooker.
just on you today. But at the same time, I myself have to think about that whole
Yeah,
ball of wax, you know, how do
Absolutely.
you distribute those dollars that somebody in Ellsworth sent to City Hall, that had to
Absolutely.
work hard for? How do we, you know, how do we do
Absolutely.
that? You know, it's
Totally
just-
get it.
I fight with that in
Totally
my
get
mind.
it. We actually receive thank you letters from some town administrators. Because I received one from, I want to say, I don't know if it was Machias, it might have been Machias, and the town administrator said, you know, without DCP, our general fund would have been completely overrun this year, completely overrun. And it's nice, that recognition of what we do for the residents. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for your time. I'm not going to take up any more of it. I just wanted to have an informal dialogue. Because when, like you said, when you're in that pressure cooker, you feel like you're in a vice and everybody's coming at you at once, I totally get that.
And we're sitting here, and this is, again, I'm not speaking for the council, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just speaking for this councilor, that I look at it and I'm like, okay, somebody had to go earn this money, send it to the city, and entrust us to put it in the
Mm-hmm.
right places. That's a real pressure, because somebody had to go earn that. Who is probably struggling to fill their fuel tank and their grocery bill? It's a real interesting.
Totally get it.
Yeah, to where do you put that of these people's hard-earned money to get the biggest bang for the dollar? And this is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but so's a free health clinic or what have you.
Yeah.
Everyone has
absolutely.
their
Absolutely.
side.
And I wanted to briefly mention, because you are the representatives of the city of Ellsworth and the budget or the finance, thank you, finance, you use the term finance committee. I have 30+ years in grant writing experience, and I wanted to say that at some point, I think there might be, I don't know if you have a grant writer but there are opportunities, there are federal grants that I'm seeing coming through daily that we might be able to partner on.
That'd be great. I would
You
talk
know?
to, I think, Jana. Riser.
Yeah, Jana writes a lot of our grants.
Perfect,
She's not a
yeah.
dedicated grant writer, I mean, she has
Well,
her
neither
own
am I.
job on top of it, so I know that sometimes she can find herself overwhelmed with the number of, I
Yeah,
think if she had more time for grant writing, there's many more opportunities for the city, but she's one
Well,
person,
I
and,
think for a
you know.
partnership,
Yeah.
Jana
well,
is.
and that's just it. The lift for me as a development director is huge, because I'm actually development and communications, so I'm writing all the press releases, I'm doing, you get it.
Yeah.
Not just, I'm doing all the fundraising and all the communications, including our website and our social media and, myself and one other person. But when we partner, it divides that, it spreads out that load. And there are opportunities that I'm seeing come through where we might be able to do something, in particular, anything energy type related, and there's a lot of money out there right now for, energy efficiency, or, what does it look like to help people? So a buzzword that you're probably hearing is affordable housing, affordable housing. Well, what we're seeing, what I'm seeing in particular as a grant writer for DCP, is that we need to help people preserve the housing they have right now. It's not just building more housing, it's preserving the homes you have right now. And I think that there is huge opportunity there. And we know that it's a problem because we do home weatherization. Down East Community Partners, we don't just help people heat their home, we help them heat it more efficiently because we are weatherizers as well. So Maynard's #1 defense towards rising, energy cost can be weatherization. Weatherize your home so that it's more energy efficient. And you're not losing things out the door. You're not like having your door open letting heat out, or, it also improves the air quality. So you're helping with the health of the individuals who then don't have to dole out money to go to the doctor. But the problem is, our deferral rate last year rose to over 60%. So we can't weatherize your home if you need a new roof or you have extensive. So what we're seeing is this perfect storm. It's not coming, it's here. The perfect storm of folks, not being able to afford because they're being squeezed on all sides, not being able to afford to, do the repairs needed to maintain their home. That's affordable housing. They can currently afford that housing. We need to help them repair the home so that it can then be weatherized. And there's money out there for it. But so often it is termed, oh, you should apply as your municipality. And a nonprofit can partner with you.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
well, I think any of that information, bring it to Jana, maybe
Okay.
general
Yeah.
assistants, there's
Yeah.
folks there to
There's
talk
some huge
about.
opportunities.
Yeah,
on
they may
this.
not just be aware of it and
Okay.
it's a,
Yeah.
Yeah, because quite frankly, as a grant writer, I will say that the opportunities, they're released several a day,
Yeah.
and that, it's overwhelming to try and keep up with all of those, what we call FOAs, Federal Opportunity Announcements, or RFPs,
yeah.
so RFAs, all of those. So it's tough to keep up with that. I completely get it. I'm overwhelmed as myself, so.
Well, thank you for coming
But I
in.
am seeing
Thank
those
you.
opportunities, and I think there's a great opportunity to partner with the city of Ellsworth.
Yeah, no,
So-
and the comprehensive planning process is going on, and housing and all that's a part of it, and there's an opportunity for organizations like DCP to engage with that process as well.
We had somebody at the meeting
On Monday.
last night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, no, it was
Wednesday,
great.
okay.
That was a great meeting.
I don't even know half the
And
time
I think there's
later.
gonna be more of those meetings
Yeah,
too,
there's gonna
from
be
my
more.
understanding, so it would be, all these grant opportunities is a good time to present those also as a group effort on some of the things.
Yeah, certainly.
Awesome, yeah. I really think there's just so much money out there right now for energy efficiency, and sometimes they're missing the ball. Like, there is, if you haven't heard of it, you might want to write this down, the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. I use it for grant writing all the time because it spits out an enormous amount of data about your area. So it's a federal tool, and you can type in Hancock County and zone in on whatever. So they do population tracks within the county. So you pull up Hancock County and then you zone in on the track that you're in, and it will give you all kinds of data.
Again, I think reaching out to Jana would be good, because, staff brings this to us.
Yeah.
And then, so she's the one, and GA and those folks would be the ones to get them that information.
Absolutely. It's an interesting, it's really interesting just to look at, though.
Mhm.
It really is. And dishearteningly, I have watched the disintegration of homes through that tool. So there are swaths of Washington County that a year and a half ago when I began grant writing for DCP, that were in the 90th percentile for not having indoor plumbing. They are now in the 92nd percentile for not having indoor plumbing. So I'm literally watching the disintegration of homes through a screening tool. Thank you for your time.
Drive safely.
I appreciate it, and I'm
Yeah,
looking
thank
so
you.
forward to building more bridges between DCP and Ellsworth.
Great, thank you very
Thank
much.
you now.
I do have a couple last things that I actually kind of forgot about, sorry. Our new Excel software is coming in the next couple of weeks to go live. And so, I just wanted you guys to know, and I'll have Glenn follow up with the finance committee through email. Because of that change, we will have a warrant next week, for next Friday.
We will or won't?
We will. February 9th, however, we're not sure yet, because next Wednesday, the 31st of January, is when all the invoices will be in Munis for payment for the Friday warrant committee. Once those are all in and submitted, Casal's gonna be doing our last data poll of live data to put into their system. Depending on how that goes and any potential hiccups, and they're not gonna be here on site until the 12th of February to do our live
Go live.
kickoff,
Which is a Monday, right?
which is a Monday.
Yeah, yeah.
So they had talked to the staff that did the training, the pre-live training last month, about they could walk us through a warrant process the week prior to them coming here. I don't know how comfortable the staff feel doing that without someone here showing the step by step. So I'm not sure how that's gonna work for the week of the 9th, which would be Friday after next. I think there'll still be a finance committee meeting, there should be, there's still a lot of other topics to discuss outside of a warrant, just my opinion, but, I guess just keep that,
Yeah, just keep us updated.
yeah,
Could, I just might throw this out for you to pass along, and it may not be relevant, but if that's the case, is it possible that, I mean, I see a lot of overdue bills, and I'm wondering if there could be a focus to bring things up to speed in that last January
yes.
31st
So I do
one?
believe that is their intent. I
Okay.
think the staff, I think Ashley and Deb are trying to get all of our required payments done, which are the things that have been kind of held off and they're late, plus any, contracted amounts like Woodard and Curran. If we've contracted them for a service, we
Yeah,
have to pay that.
Yeah.
We are in a spending freeze, so we are trying to hold off on buying anything that we don't absolutely have to have.
But invoices
But
that are
yes,
late,
I will-
I would just personally like to see that
Yeah, I will
if there's a
talk to Glenn.
possibility of skipping a week of payments, which sounds like there could be, could we at least
on the-
accelerate and clean up anything that's bad?
Yeah, I agree.
So, Yeah.
Yeah, I will talk to Glenn on Monday and have him speak with finance, just to
Yeah.
Boy,
make sure
I
they
hate
focus
to
on
see
those
that.
kind of things.
Yeah.
But I did wanna just make you aware that we don't know, cause we don't know what we don't know yet. And with any big conversion, there's certainly potential for us to not be able to have that warrant. We did a pre-live training, but not having their staff here to help us if there's a problem. I don't know how comfortable we feel trying to get through a warrant, and then no one's here to help us if we get stuck.
Yeah.
If we have a current background with everybody, everyone should understand the week.
Yes.
But if you don't have that current background and you have overdue going into that week,
Right.
that's just an aggravation.
Yeah, no, I think we
Yeah.
gotta do what we can to get current and everything.
glad
But yeah, I'll speak
Yeah.
to Glenn and see if he can just speak with finance and ensure that they
Yeah,
focus
it's,
on
you
this.
know,
I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing, but
Let's hope, because I hate to see, anyone will understand a week of progress and,
Right.
changing over, but boy, it's hard to understand it when there's already a 60-day
Yeah.
bill there.
Yep.
no, absolutely.
And thank you.
But yeah, I will have Glenn keep you updated on that as well as talk to finance.
Great. Well, thanks for running the show today, Tony.
That's what I do.
She's the jack of all trades.
Oh, yeah. Those clerks have to be.
So you want to have them turn the,
Yes,
Yeah,
Jason, we're all set.
Okay.
so you're off to your office?
Off to the office, gotta go, do all the
Thank
other
you, Tony.
things.
Do all the what?
Do all the other things I gotta do.
Yeah,
No, it's good, this is, I enjoy our Friday mornings.
I do too.
Yeah.
My first year here, I was on, but it was always down here, very less formal,
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Now I like how it's
Yeah,
done.
no, I like
This
it.
is
It's
nice.
good. Oh, this is good one, yeah, keep this